Before we begin, I ask just one thing: stay until the end, because to understand the biggest scandal in Formula One history, you need to see how every piece connects to it. All started with a mysterious dossier landing on the wrong desk, then came deeper leaks, intelligence warnings from MI6, forged documents, public denials, internal revenge leaks, planned crashes, and accusations of bribery and sabotage involving Ferrari, McLaren, and Renault. For 3 years, the paddock lived through a technological Cold War, where every chapter hid an invisible enemy, and when the truth finally surfaced, no team came out truly innocent. This is the complete dossier, the story Formula One never wanted you to know. And if you want to uncover what really happens behind the speed and the glory, follow the page, because the next episode gets even darker. The Seat of Betrayal, 2001, Maranello, Italy. Maranello, 2001. Ferrari was at its peak: victories, titles, and a machine as precise as the Swiss watch on Michael Schumacher's wrist. Into this perfect ecosystem stepped Nigel Stepney, a disciplined, methodical engineer personally recommended by Schumacher himself. Within months, Stepney restructured the garage workflow, tightened protocols, shaved crucial seconds off pit stops, and became a key cog in the red juggernaut that would dominate from 2001 to 2004. But behind the curtains, something creaked. Internal memos warned about his unorthodox methods, bypassed audit trails, and near-total control over areas meant to be monitored. The teens celebrated trophies, Stepney accumulated resentment. Promotions never came, his name vanished from ceremonies, and younger engineers claimed positions he believed he had earned. Frustration became routine. Invisibility, torture. And in that silence, ignored, sidelined, replaced, the first crack appeared. Before any leaked documents, there was a grievance form, a denied bonus, and a handwritten note slipped under a cafe table in Medina. The first spark of what would become one of Formula One's most infamous scandals. The turning point, 2006, Maranello and Woking. Late 2006, Ferrari still shone brightly, but behind the perfect facade something had begun to rot. Nigel Stepney, the meticulous engineer who had helped forge the team's dominance, now found himself isolated, overlooked, and pushed to the margins of Ferrari's technical hierarchy. Excluded from key meetings, reassigned to the secondary garage, and passed over for promotions, he lived through days of silent frustration and nights of growing resentment. Ferrari continued to win, but Stepney no longer felt part of the triumph. In that climate of disillusionment came the turning point. A private email, sent from his wife's personal account. Technical documents removed manually, far from digital audit trails. And on the receiving end, someone eager to listen: McLaren's chief designer, Mike Coughlin. The first leak was small: a gearbox manual, a few diagrams. But each new packet expanded the bridge, making it bolder, riskier, and harder to hide. Stepney believed he was operating in the dark. He didn't know Ferrari was already watching, didn't know every move was being logged, and he had no idea that a handful of printed pages would ignite the biggest technical scandal in modern Formula One. The Intercepted Package, 2007, Milan, Surrey, London. July 3, 2007. At Heathrow's mail screening facility, an envelope from the Maranello region raises eyebrows. Too heavy for personal documents, too thick for casual correspondence. A second pass under X-ray reveals technical diagrams, tables, and pages stamped with the Ferrari logo. The alert chain forms instantly. Within minutes, the package is detained. The recipient? Mike Coughlin, the man designing McLaren's near future. The seizure triggers a domino effect. UK Customs alerts Scotland Yard. The FIA is briefed, and quietly, British intelligence becomes involved, having tracked suspicious document traffic between Italy and the UK. CCTV footage shows Trish Coughlin mailing the envelope while wearing a Ferrari cap, so absurd a detail that investigators interpret it as intentional misdirection. When police raid the Coughlin home, they uncover stacks of printed documents, photocopy receipts, and annotations matching Ferrari's internal engineering style. The covert bridge between Stepney and Coughlin, once silent and invisible, erupts into public scandal. And the entire sport realizes the biggest technical espionage case in modern Formula One has now entered a new phase, powered by paper, ink, and a postal stamp. The Red Trap, 2007, Maranello, Italy. June 12, 2007. Inside a restricted room in Maranello, Ferrari engineers and security personnel examine a single sheet of paper, a forged specification for a component that never existed. The oil viscosity? Incorrect by design. The project code? Perfectly convincing. The signature? An impeccable replica of the chief designer's. This wasn't just a document, it was bait. The sheet is quietly placed inside Nigel Stepney's personal archive, right where he accessed sensitive project material. Ferrari didn't want suspicions, they wanted proof. Proof that spoke without interpretation. Hours later, Cameras catch Stepney opening the drawer. Days later, analysts in Maranello observe an anomaly. The fake data appears inside McLaren's aerodynamic testing records. Ferrari finally has what it needs, a direct, undeniable link. When Ross Brawn presents the evidence to the FIA, the fake memo and McLaren's test log sit side by side like matching fingerprints. Silence fills the room. The trap had worked. And the scandal, once shapeless, suddenly had structure, direction, and names. A global stage of denial, 2007, Woking, England. July 13, 2007. At McLaren's gleaming headquarters, reporters crowd the room as Ron Dennis steps onto the stage with controlled posture. In front of him, a single slide, no Ferrari intellectual property was used. The silence is dense. Dennis speaks firmly, yet urgency betrays the edges of his voice. He frames everything as a lone act by Mike Coughlin, a mistake, not a conspiracy, but across Europe. The FIA's evidence stacks higher. Internal emails reveal technical adjustments made in the exact days following the leak. MP4-22 logs show updates aligned with tolerances and dimensions traced back to Ferrari designs. One by one, the puzzle pieces begin to form a picture no one at McLaren wanted visible. When the FIA demands full server access, Dennis resists. He cites employee privacy, legal frameworks, internal protocols. The refusal sounds less like caution and more like fear. Parallel investigations uncover that discussions on integrating the leaked data indeed occurred, some written, others spoken behind closed doors. The theater of denial cracks. And as camera flashes strike Dennis' tense expression, the world realizes this is no longer a technical whisper. It's an institutional crisis, and the global stage is already lit. The second betrayal, 2007, Rimini Enstone. August 2007. Ferrari severs all ties with Nigel Stepney. He leaves Maranello carrying nothing but a heavy silence, a silence he soon turns into revenge. In a small hotel room in Rimini, Stepney prepares a second package. This time, not for McLaren, but for Renault. Inside the envelope, front suspension blueprints for the 2008 car, airflow schematics, wind tunnel notes, and sensitive calibration figures. A technical time bomb of the destination, Enstone. The intended eyes, Flavio Briatore, a man who ruled the paddock with the same intensity he ruled boardrooms. The envelope lacked a signature, but Stepney included a personal symbol, a dried olive leaf, reminiscent of political dinners they once shared in Sardinia. Upon arrival, the packet never enters Renault's digital ecosystem. It is locked away in a filing cabinet off the books, unseen, unlogged, but the harm is done. When the FIA uncovers the communication trail, Renault does not deny receiving the documents, it only insists it never used them. For Stepney, it was never about lap time. It was about refusing to vanish quietly. And ironically, this quiet envelope became the spark that would ignite the next moral crisis in Formula One. Briatore's Gambit, 2008, Singapore. September 2008. Under the artificial lights of Singapore, Formula One's first ever night race glows like a futuristic arena. But behind closed doors, three men outline a plan that will reshape the sport forever. In a quiet room, Flavio Briatore stares at Nelson Piquet Jr. with unblinking intent. Pat Simons flips through sheets of fuel numbers and timing windows. The suggestion hangs like poison in the air: if you crash there, Alonso wins. The target is turns 17 and 18, the narrowest, most unforgiving spot on the circuit. Piquet, pressured and uncertain, agrees. On lap 14, he floors the throttle, snaps the wheel beyond limit, and the R28 detonates against the wall in a burst of sparks, precisely where no recovery crane is stationed, guaranteeing a safety car. Renault pits Alonso early enough to look suspicious but late enough to matter. After the crash, the strategy clicks into place like clockwork. As the grid reshuffles, Alonso leaps from 15th to the lead in just a handful of laps. He wins. Briatore celebrates as if fate itself had intervened, but fate had nothing to do with it. A year later, the truth erupts, and Singapore 2008 ceases to be a brilliant victory. It becomes evidence, proof that even beneath the brightest lights, the sport hid shadows deep and intentional. The Hidden Web, 2007 to 2009, the global paddock. 2007 was supposed to be just Ferrari versus McLaren, but anyone walking through the paddock felt something heavier, a quiet tension suggesting that several teams were caught in the same hidden web. In a narrow corridor during the Japanese GP, an FIA delegate notices a red folder discreetly passed between two engineers from different teams. Nothing illegal at first glance, but the suspicion lingers. In Cologne, at Toyota's headquarters, prosecutors uncover hard drives containing Ferrari files. In Enstone, McLaren documents sit unregistered in locked cabinets. In Brackley, whispers claim that technical reports from 2006 circulated among recently hired staff. The entire paddock becomes a foggy battlefield of torn notes, encrypted emails, and engineers walking with folders that should never leave factory walls. Fear rises as FIA expands its reach. Secret meetings take place inside team motorhomes, where principals speak softly enough to avoid microphones. Some teams distance themselves, others scrub their tracks. And the question grows louder: what if Spygate wasn't an isolated incident, but the symptom of a much larger system? The web stretches silently. The truth never fully emerges. And maybe that's the biggest scandal of all, the part that was never revealed, only whispered. Bribery or sabotage? 2007 to 2009, global paddock. Between 2007 and 2009, Formula One lived a thriller of its own. In hidden corridors, whispers grew louder. It was bribery, it was sabotage, it was pressure, it was fear. Every team had a version, none entirely trustworthy. After the Renault scandal, allegations surfaced of quiet payments made to keep certain names silent. Nothing written, everything verbal. Conversations in motorhomes, half-closed doors, glances that spoke more than words. The kind of agreement that never appears in FIA PDFs. Meanwhile, engineers jumped between teams with unusual haste. Some carried only laptops, others overloaded pen drives. Technical files disappeared from servers. Calibration values changed overnight. Aero packages failed before even reaching the track. Internal sabotage or coincidence? No one could say. At FIA headquarters, investigators tried to draw connections. And the more they looked, the clearer it became. The issue wasn't a single scandal, but an entire shadow culture. Formula One raced at 300 km per hour on track, but off track, it walked on fragile ice. In the end, no one confesses to bribery. No one admits sabotage. But the scars remain invisible, deep, and impossible to fully erase. Who really benefited? 2007 to 2009, behind Formula One. In the end, between leaked documents, intentional crashes, and secret dossiers, one question remains: who actually won? Ferrari lost technical innocence but gained enormous political leverage by exposing McLaren's darkest moment. The $100 million fine became the biggest financial sanction in F1 history, a global warning that playing in the shadows comes with a price. McLaren, though publicly crushed, captured valuable insights from Ferrari's aero philosophy. Not enough to win titles, but enough to shift margins, preferences, and development paths. The team fell hard, but stood up wiser. Renault, officially cleared, still benefited structurally by understanding how a top-tier rival organized its secret data flows. And, of course, it claimed a race victory built on manipulation, one that would stain its legacy indefinitely. But at the top of the pyramid sat the FIA, untouched. By punishing, acquitting, negotiating, and shaping the narrative, the federation emerged stronger than before. In a scandal where everyone lost something, the only entity that truly gained was the one meant to regulate the game. In the final balance, the truth is uncomfortable. In Formula One's hidden world, the winner isn't always the fastest on track, but the one who controls the board. Ashes of the scandal, 2007 to 2010, the F1 world. When the dust finally settled, Formula One realized it had crossed a threshold that would redefine its identity forever. In Woking, FIA sealed boxes remained stacked for months, physical reminders of a corporate wound. In Maranello, veteran engineers stopped carrying USB drives. Everything became cataloged, encrypted, supervised. Trust, once implicit, became a luxury. At Renault, the damage ran deeper. Sponsors vanished, contracts were rewritten, and the word Crashgate hovered like a ghost over every marketing presentation. Bribery disappeared for a while, resurfacing only in courtrooms and social events, trying to rebuild a fractured legacy. Alonso, though never blamed, carried the weight of a victory the world would debate endlessly. At the FIA, a new era emerged. Audit programs were strengthened, delegates gained broader authority, and teams were required to digitally register every part, every file, every software version. The era of improvisation ended. The era of surveillance began, and the paddock, once a labyrinth of charm and secrecy, became colder, more corporate, more suspicious. The legacy of 2007 to 2010 was not just technical, but psychological. Formula One learned that winning has a price, but regaining trust is far more expensive. The full story revealed, 2007 to 2010, London, Paris and worldwide paddock. When the final document was filed and the FIA's last meeting adjourned, Formula One was forced to face the sum of everything that had happened. It wasn't one scandal, or two. It was a mosaic, a tapestry of rivalry, espionage, manipulation, and corporate pride. In London, lawyers examined pages frozen in time. In Paris, sporting authorities organized boxes no one wanted to reopen. In the paddock, veterans whispered as if the walls could still listen. The full story didn't emerge in a single revelation. It formed slowly, piece by piece: stolen engineering in Italy, intercepted data in England, planned crashes in Singapore, hidden documents in Germany, silent agreements in France. Each chapter once felt isolated until all of them connected. The final truth brought no relief. It brought clarity. It showed that for 3 years, Formula One hadn't lived a sporting rivalry, but a technological Cold War. A time when the line between victory and deception was thin, fragile, almost invisible, and when everything surfaced, every team realized there were no heroes, no single villains, only survivors. F1 moved on, stricter, monitored, suspicious, but more aware of the shadow it casts of the ultimate legacy. A bitter lesson: truth always escapes even when everyone tries to bury it.